So good morning, everyone. I would like to introduce myself once again. My name is Sharon, and I am currently working as an application engineer for Wärtsilä ES&O. And today I'm very excited for you all to join me while I address a key and growing question that has been asked to us on multiple occasions by a lot of people, and that is all about noise. So today I would like to talk about noise mitigation and how exactly acoustic optimization can help address the performance of BESS within our industry. So I would like to call this particular topic as the silent challenge, because while we often think of BESS solutions, we don't really equate that with a noise problem. However, that is a real concern, and it is a growing problem for us. And as BESS applications expand, with more and more projects being spread all across the world, we are having to now think about multifaceted approach to environmental concerns, and one of them happens to be noise. And moreover, we have issues with, I guess the clicker is working now. We have issues with how we need to address the acoustic footprint in terms of regulatory compliance and operational requirements. There are multifaceted approach to this topic. Because the noise topic, with increasing changing laws, with increasing changing zoning laws, and more sites occupying industrial areas, commercial areas, they're starting to become a very important discussion. And this can lead to a lot of operational changes and requirements and challenges. So ultimately, we need to ask the question, why does noise matter, and how exactly do we solve it? So in order to understand noise, one of the first things that we need to do is understand what are the sources of noise, which is, So on a high level, we can basically classify noise into three sources. We've got the electrical sources, we've got the mechanical sources, and structural sources. And they can be, again, classified into different units or different components. And the primary category, which is electrical noise sources, can be attributed to inverters and transformers. These power conversion systems consist and comprise of electronic components such as IGBTs and other components which can produce noise in various aspects. So you've got noise coming in as low-frequency noise and high-frequency noise. So the way that we address the noise mitigation strategy would really depend on what kind of noise we're dealing with. And the only way that we can get to know that is to understand what exactly these noise sources are. Similarly, we've got our mechanical sources, which comprise of the cooling fans and the HVAC systems. And I would say that this is a very core part of our BESS solutions, because they help in maintaining the optimal temperature. It helps in ensuring that there's no overheating. And ultimately, these cooling fans and HVAC systems ensure the optimal lifespan of the system in itself. So addressing the noise challenges from a mechanical point of view also becomes of high priority to us. Lastly, depending on how well the system is designed, the enclosure design would also contribute to some level of noise, because the components could be, if they're not sitting that well, or if they're not placed as accurately as they should within the enclosure, it could lead to some vibration and some vibroacoustics from the vents, from the enclosure themselves. So ultimately, with all of these contributing factors, we have to basically come up with a plan and understand how exactly noise can originate from an equipment. So once we identify what exactly the noise sources are, we also have to think about how exactly we can think of impacting the noise mitigation strategies, because it's not just the noise source itself, it is also the influence of surrounding factors. So one of the first factors that we have is the atmospheric conditions. For example, wind conditions, the temperature gradients, humidity, they all play a role in how noise propagates over a certain field. And if I have to give you an example, if there is high wind conditions, and especially during nighttime, during low temperature conditions, we can see that the sound gets amplified much higher, and even distant noise can be very clearly and audibly heard. And this can be a challenge, especially when we're designing BESS sites in very critical areas. We also have issues with, we also have influence with absorption. So if the BESS site has, for example, foliage or vegetation or porous surfaces nearby, these materials in a way act as sound absorbing materials, and in a way it can help reduce noise. So the type of material, the type of environment that the BESS site is currently laying on do play a significant role in how exactly the noise mitigation can be addressed. Similarly, we also have distance and reflection. So as the distance increases, we can see that the noise reduces or decreases. But for example, if there is a wall nearby, or if there's an enclosure, or if there's some sort of building nearby, they can act as reflecting sources, and in a way it can help amplify the noise. So the type of material that surrounds, in terms of even building structures, would play a significant role in how exactly noise gets propagated. But it's not just these environmental influences from an external point of view, but it also matters from a human health point of view, because prolonged exposure to noise is extremely detrimental to health. It's not just an annoyance, or it just doesn't cause hearing loss, but it can also lead to cardiovascular risks, which then becomes a topic of public health hazards. So it then becomes of utmost importance to us to address the noise topic, because we do not play around when it comes to the condition of human health and that of wildlife. So that leads me to my last point within this slide, which is the environmental impact, because as BESS sites occupy high population density areas, the noise pollution to a certain extent does impact wildlife and the ecological balance, because a lot of the wildlife rely on sound to communicate with each other and to navigate the locations nearby. And with this noise pollution, it can act as a disruption to that and completely unintentionally interfere with the ecological balance. So then noise just becomes a big problem that we then have to address right then and there. So now that we've known and now that we've explored what are the different types of noise sources and what are the impacts of noise in terms of the environmental influence, we also have to think about what are some of the current challenges that we are facing. And one of the first things that we are facing is site constraints. So in many cases, again, as I briefly touched on earlier, with changes in the zoning laws, we're seeing a lot of sites occupy areas that are closer to residential and commercial areas. And what this would mean is that there are stricter noise limits, and this would mean it's more difficult for us to address those noise limits because maybe our equipment is not built or made for that, for example. Moreover, because of site constraints, there might be issues with not being able to implement the right type of enclosure design or the right type of barrier design. Whereas if you look at rural areas, because they are more widespread, we have to think about a more wider approach into the noise control aspect, because sound can travel over larger distances and it can again affect wildlife. So it's always a balance about how exactly do we manage the urban requirements versus the rural requirements. Secondly, we also have regulatory variations. So noise varies from, we do not have a standard body that governs noise. We have noise variances for each jurisdiction, for each county, for each state. So because of these local, national, and international laws, it can get quite challenging for industries to sort of stay on top of things and to stay in touch with what are the evolving landscapes and the evolving regulatory requirements. And as a result, we might not be fully equipped to deal with the noise challenges that come, which is why we do have a need to be proactive in our noise approach and talk to industry experts and engage with them. Similarly, we also have the issue of balancing cost versus effectiveness of the noise control. Of course, at any point of time, we can make a best site completely silent if need be, but that would come with a cost. So the trade-off between finding the right type of solution without over-engineering, while also making sure that the solution is practically feasible and that we're not inflating the cost, then becomes a bit of a challenge. And as a result, if we do not balance these challenges quite well, it can lead to the impact of serious noise control issues with project delays, planning approval delays, fines, legal challenges, and from a technical point of view, even equipment stress, because it would mean that there's something unreliable or that there is some issue, underlying issue with the equipment in itself. So with all that being said, we do have some solutions in the industry as of today, and I would say that I would briefly classify them into two different types of strategies, and that is the passive mitigation strategies, noise mitigation strategies, and active mitigation strategies. So for passive, there are some existing solutions such as acoustic barriers and silencer kits, which are made of, let's say, sound-absorbing materials such as rock wool or foam or perforated materials, which can help absorb a lot of the sound and sort of dampen it. And these materials are commonly employed in the industry today from an equipment level point of view and also from a site level point of view when we want to think about acoustic barriers and acoustic fences for very noise critical areas. But another approach that we can take is think about strategic site placements, where we can then look into facing the more noisier part of the equipment away from the sensitive and critical areas to make sure that at least we can minimize the impact of the high noise that's coming in from the equipment. So directivity then plays a big role in passive mitigation strategies. Similarly, in active mitigation strategies, we now play with the technology in itself, where we play around with smart ventilation control. We look at adaptive operational management, where we play around with the equipment itself, with the operation of the equipment itself, to take advantage of the environment and of the temperature conditions that's around us, and also of the regulatory policies that govern that particular area, to play around with our equipment or with our controls. And similarly, there's a lot of new technologies coming up, such as active noise cancellation. Similarly to that works of active noise cancellation headphones, for example, where it kind of cancels out a broad range of frequencies that are problematic to the noise source at hand. So with these effective noise control strategies, a combination of them or even a single one of them, it can have a serious impact in how we can address the noise mitigation approach. So now that we've known about the mitigation strategies, managing noise in BESS is not just about implementing a single solution. We have to think about it as a complex challenge of sorts, because it's influenced by all of these different conditions. So this is where we take a very unique approach at Wärtsilä, because what we like to do is to kind of address the problem at the source. So what we do is constantly collect noise data on our own equipment, on our supplies equipment, and we ensure that there's consistency and reliability in the noise profile of all of our equipment to make sure that they're of the highest quality. And we proactively and continuously measure this noise data to ensure that they are still reliable as ever. And we use this data to then interact and engage with the clients to ensure that whatever challenges or constraints that they face can be addressed by what we have. And we complement this with some noise mapping solutions as well. And essentially, noise modeling or noise mapping is a tool which we use. It's a software that we use to kind of map how the noise hotspots would look like and kind of predict what the noise profile would look like, especially at critical areas. Because with this tool or with this approach, we are able to figure out how the noise propagates over that particular site. We are also able to figure out what are the impact on the surrounding sensitive areas, and whether our noise mitigation strategies are working or not, because this information helps us to, as a result, create environmental impact assessments. It helps us to plan whether we need to think about a different or a strategic site placement, and what kind of mitigation strategies can be optimized to balance the cost versus the effectiveness, as I had mentioned earlier. So overall, it is a balance of accurate noise collection, accurate noise data measurement, and noise mapping to make sure that we are right on track. So now that I've talked about what we do, essentially I would say that the future is basically all about engaging with industry experts. And some of the key takeaways is essentially that we continue to interact with our customers, with our clients, to figure out what are the challenges that still exist in the market. Because I would say that even with the stricter noise limits coming up, and even with the stricter requirements coming up, even from a difficult site, for example, it's still good to engage with those kind of situations and to accept the challenges head on, because we are able to come up with more solutions as a result of that. And it helps us to sort of think out of the box. And the mitigation strategies don't really come up as a one-size-fits-all approach. And in many cases, we have to implement a number of different strategies to make sure that we meet the requirements. And ultimately, the integration of noise control should be a very key early development plan within the design phase itself, because it helps us to address the concerns from the very early stages. And as a result, we don't have to think about addressing the noise topic as a defensive approach, and instead take it as a proactive approach. And definitely there is a lot of future opportunities when we think about noise. We have a lot of innovative developments coming up. A lot of research and development are being put into this industry, with material development, with technological development, with AI-driven solutions. And with all of these solutions coming up, we can take sort of an approach to it, and we can take advantage of these upcoming solutions so that we can start implementing it with our own technologies as well. Similarly, I would also use this opportunity to call to action as to how we can all continue to engage with other experts within the industry to ensure that we have a very cross-functional approach when we talk about the noise topic, so that, again, from the very early stages on, we address the noise as a key requirement, and as a result, have lesser issues and lesser challenges that would face and come to us down the line. So these are just some of the points that I wanted to raise up today, and I really hope that you had a great learning experience through this presentation, and this brings me to the end of my talk. Thanks to everyone, and once again, if you have any specific questions that you would like to ask regarding the noise topic, please feel free to hit me up in booth number 76, and yeah, make some noise about noise. Thank you.